All right. Anyhow, so we'll table the subject of Neo's recovery from his dependence on the Matrix or the Beast system for now. Yeah. Anyways, I was scrolling through some comments on a video that was pretty much calling out Kamala Harris and comparing Kamala Harris to Trump. And when you see the comparison between Kamala Harris and Trump, it's just like totally obvious which of the two candidates is the better candidate. I mean, it's like, it's a total no-brainer. And so it's so absurd to see all these people, so-called people. I think the majority of them are bots and sock puppet accounts and paid, paid provocateurs and this, that are like acting like they don't see the difference between Kamala and Trump. So anyways, and this one guy, or this one, it's supposedly not a artificial intelligence bot, brought up the this is a very common defense. So when the liberals are getting their asses handed to them, that's when they start talking about, it's a big club and you aren't in it, and it's two wings of the same bird. See, this is what liberals do when they don't have anything, they have nothing left. And this is literally what's going on. Like, the liberals have nothing left. They have been proven to be, the lesser, the inferior party for, like the last 4 years at least. Like, I'm not a Republican. If anything, I would be an independent, because I just want the best person. If I do have a choice, then I would choose the best person. And it has become totally obvious that of the two, you compare the two, Kamala Harris and Trump, it is totally obvious which of the two is the better person. I mean, the curtains have been pulled back. It is like totally obvious to anyone with half a fucking brain that Kamala is the inferior candidate. And so because Kamala represents the Democrat liberal party, and this has become totally apparent to everyone, the liberals don't have anything left. All they have left is to talk about how it's two wings of the same bird. If voting were real, it would be illegal. It's a big club and you ain't in it, and all this shit. And so he was using the person posting the comment was using the it's a big club and you aren't in it. And that's some George Carlin stuff, which, in the right context, that's a really good, important thing to point out. The only problem with when you start talking about, if you really want to really use that, okay, it's a big club and you aren't in it. So let's look at this. Okay, there's a big club and you aren't in it. Well, that's those are the masters, the rulers, the ruling class. And when you talk about it's a big club, that's classism. It has nothing to do with race when you're talking about the big club. Oprah Winfrey makes $10 a minute. So she's part of the big club. She's a black female. Aren't black females the most oppressed people in the whole wide world? So when we're referencing the big club, first of all, it has nothing to do with race. Nothing at all. Absolutely nothing to do with race. And what it really does when you talk about the big club, it exposes classism. But yet, how often does anybody talk about classism? Like, nobody ever does. All anyone wants to do is talk about racism on both sides. It's all about race. They want to, and this is all by design. This is all, controlled opposition. It's all just a complete psychological operation to minimize everything and reduce everything down to race. So So these people, they want to reduce everything to race, but then they want to bring up the big club. Well, if you look at the big club, you got Oprah Winfrey. She's not, I mean, you've got all these fucking women, colored women, men, colored men, so there is no race. That just, to use the phrase, there's a big club and you aren't in it, totally debunks any race issue. And all these people are constantly trying to inject race as though race, everything can be reduced to race. But the big club, once you start referencing the big club and you look at the big club, the ones that we know of that are in the big club, there is no discrimination. There is no racial discrimination among the big club. They don't care if you're black or white. Michael Jackson, it doesn't matter if you're black or white if you're in the big club. So this is like selective. People want to just use this when they don't have anything else to say. As well, there's a big club and you aren't in it. That's because they don't have anything else to say. And it's just the stupidest shit. So, but the thing is let's explore this idea that there's a big club and you aren't in it. Okay. Well, which club are you talking about though? So you've got the elite, the masters. Oh man, dude. Okay. My car is like doing this stupid shit. I don't know what the fuck. So you got the masters. They're okay. You got the elite, the ruling class, and again, there is no race really thing going on with the big club. You got all different people of all different races. The only common denominator in the big club with the elites and the master class is they're all fucking rich. They're all like super rich. So that's a class issue. But when do you ever hear anybody talking about class? If you're paying any attention at all, the topic of class is conspicuously absent from all public discourse. And that's because the ruling class controls all public discourse. And you're not allowed to talk about class. You'll just get ignored. You'll get completely ignored, and all the people that dominate the narrative are just going to keep talking about race on both sides. On both sides, all they do is talk about race. And they mock the idea of talking about class as an issue. But then those same people that mock the idea of discussing class, the issue of class and class warfare and the ruling class, they mock the idea. They always mock it out of public discourse. But then those same people like to bring up, these hot take, quick one-liners like, oh, there's a big club and you aren't in it. See, it's complete hypocrisy. It's extreme hypocrisy, and it's completely sickening and disgusting. And not even to mention, like, when you look, let's explore, let's investigate the idea of there's the club. There's a big club and you aren't in it. Let's really look into that. So what about the homeless? See, the homeless is always, homelessness and poverty is the most effective tool to dismantling false arguments. Because, okay, well, you have all kinds of clubs. Look around you. Everybody's breaking off into warring factions. Each group, each group is like claiming they're right and everyone else is wrong. I mean, there isn't just one big club. There is one big club at the top, the capstone. But you've got all kinds of layers below the capstone that are big clubs. The middle class is one of them. The middle class is a big club that if you're poor and homeless, you aren't in. There's a big club and you ain't in it. Again, use homelessness as a barometer to measure the authenticity of this statement. There's a big club and you ain't in it. And the middle class can use that and say, there's a big club. There's a big club. It's the capstone, the elite, and you ain't in it. Yeah, but the middle class is a big club that the homeless ain't in either. The middle class treats the homeless exactly the way the capstone of the ruling elite treat everyone below them. So imagine this. So the middle class is a big club that the homeless, the over 1 million homeless people aren't in. And how does the middle class generally treat the homeless? The same way that the ruling class treats the middle class. Exactly the same. So that's like the pot calling the kettle black. If I'm middle class and I ignore the homeless and treat them like shit and I don't care and I always rationalize it away by saying, well, all those people are just lazy drug addict criminals. That's why they're not in the middle class club. And I'm in the middle class and this is how I treat the homeless. But then hypocritically, I'm going to go around and start telling everybody there's a big club and you ain't in it. I'm going to be using George Carlin's quote, there's a big club and you ain't in it. But then I'm just as guilty because I'm part of the middle class and all the middle class do is ignore and fucking hate the homeless. So you see what I'm saying? Like that George Carlin quote means nothing anymore. It means nothing. And you know why? Because the big club references the class warfare, and that the big club up at the top, the capstone, there ain't no discrimination. Oprah Winfrey makes $10 a minute. There's black women, there's all kinds of, there is no racial discrimination among the ruling class, among the ruling elite. And they're the ones that are in the big club, and nobody else is in it. But see, they pander to the middle class. The middle class, like this is, and so anyways, I just get really disgusted with people's hypocrisy. People are have so little self-awareness. They don't even know what they're talking about. And even though they're as guilty, like the middle class is just as guilty of being in a club that excludes the people below them. The middle class is just as guilty of this as the ruling class is. And yet you'll find these middle class people referencing George Carlin because they're butthurt about politics, because they're liberals that are butthurt that it is completely obvious to everyone on this entire planet who the better candidate is when you compare Trump and Kamala. So nobody wants to talk about class. Now, I don't see anybody talking about class division and economic inequality. Nobody's talking about that, but they always want to reference the big club that you ain't in. That's a class reference. That is a class reference. The people that are in the club, this club that is being referenced, is all the richest people in the world. So these people, they just want to selectively, like, it's total cherry picking. It's like they don't want to be consistent in anything they say. Just whatever happens to be convenient for them to use at the time, in the moment, they just throw out there. It's just like Twitter, this is what social media has done to society. Like, people don't even have to think about what they're saying at all. They just throw shit out there and just whatever. It doesn't matter. I don't need to think about it. Like, literally think about the term, about the phrase, there's a big club and you ain't in it. Well, what does that club consist of? Does it consist of all white people? No. Does it consist of all black people? No. Does it consist of all Mexicans? No. Does it consist of all Jews? No. Does it consist of, what's the common denominator with all these people in this so-called big club? What's the only one common denominator? Is they're all fucking rich. And to a homeless person, the middle class are rich. The middle class treat the homeless identical to how the big club that you ain't in treats the middle class and everyone else. So how are you any different than the big club? Are you inclusive of the homeless, of the over 1 million homeless people in this country, and inclusive of their rights and their constitutional rights? No, not at all. Are you inclusive of equality, democratic equality and equity? No, absolutely not. Completely Dude, it is such fucking hypocrisy. It is so fucking disgusting. And again, why is class, the subject of class, conspicuously absent from all public discourse, and is like, anytime anybody brings it up, they're laughed out of the public discourse, out of the public square. Anytime anybody starts saying that we have a class, there's class inequality. You got these lower class people, you got middle class. I mean, the people, the lowest classes are being oppressed more than anyone else. And it always gets laughed out of public discourse. That's because the middle class want to keep their class status, but still be able to claim victim. We're the victims of the big club. Oh, we're just victims of the big club. But what about the lowest echelons? Oh, we just ignore them because they're all lazy, mentally ill drug addicts. And see, I have been fucking talking about this for since like 2008. That's all I've been talking about, because all I see is massive contradiction and inconsistency in every narrative. And the reason there's all this contradiction is because nobody wants to talk about class. That's why, like I said, when I went to the fucking 2008 Occupy in Sacramento, California, nobody wanted to talk about class, even though Sacramento has one of the highest fucking homeless populations in the fucking world. And none of the 2008 occupiers even wanted to talk about it. They wanted to just talk about racial inequality and all the same shit, racial inequality and gender inequality. And so I started injecting class into the subject. Like, I was the only one. When I would talk, there was crickets. Like, everybody was like so shocked that somebody would actually stand up to all these lies. And I was like the only one. And I kept showing up every General Assembly. I'd keep injecting. And for 10 days in a row, to the point where they had no choice but to start talking about homelessness and the class issue, the big club issue, the class issue, the class inequality issue. And then that's when it tore the whole fucking thing down. All these, like, half of the people at Occupy started complaining because they're like middle class people, and so they started getting all butthurt and complaining because they didn't come to the Occupy movement to talk about the homeless issue. Well, it's only the biggest fucking issue in the whole in the city of Sacramento, California. The homeless issue trumps every other fucking issue in that city, and they're constantly sweeping it under the rug. So is everyone else. Like I said, why is class, the issue of class, conspicuously absent from all discussion? Yet you'll see these hot takes of, well, there's a big club and you ain't in it. That's class. So do you want to talk about class issues, or do you not? Or only when it's convenient for you. But as soon as you start getting exposed as you being the middle class are guilty of the same thing, the way you treat the homeless, as this so-called club you reference treats you. If you're just as guilty as the club, then your point is moot. You have no fucking point, and basically you fucking suck, and you brought all of your fucking misery upon yourself. And so the enemy of my enemy is my friend. That big club that I ain't in, that you aren't in either, well, they're beating your fucking dumb ass, and all you're doing is crying about it. And it's like, good. Maybe you fucking deserve it.